Across the face of the green country where castles and towns dot the hillsides and the riverbanks, a series of ancient artifacts stand as monuments. They are remnants, stalwart legacies of a forgotten time. Their magic is powerful but unknown to the modern kingdom. They are myths, stories, and they are how we will discuss creating a D&D mythology. Welcome back, adventurers. My name is Ryan of the Red Quills, and today we're embarking on a journey into the heart of myth and legend. In this episode of the Red Quills Guide to World Design, we'll be exploring the creation of mythology for your D&D world. Mythology adds depth and richness to your setting, providing the backdrop of ancient stories and legendary figures to shape the influences, cultures, and histories of your world. Mythology can influence everything from the beliefs and customs of your world inhabitants to the magical artifacts and ancient ruins your players discover. Whether you're providing creation myths, heroic legends, or tales of lost civilizations, these stories can provide context and inspiration for your campaign. In this episode, we'll be creating more lore and backstory for the world that we've been exploring in this series. Until that end, I'll be illustrating this map of the Tors, the archaic towers of the elder giants from the beginning of creation. And this is an excellent opportunity to explore how to create the mythology that illustrates the backdrop of the world. So let's grab our quills and parchment and begin weaving the tapestry of your world's mythology. We're going to be creating a slightly unusual map today. Like the previous maps, it is usable in the setting of the Kingdom of Endon, which we've been exploring through this series. But because it maps the ancient towers and the accompanying Agdu, which we'll talk about later, it has a different style than usual. What I'm aiming for is a puzzle of maps, something that can be given to the players to decipher, to reveal knowledge and lore incrementally as they progress. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the basis of what we're working on, which is the mythology of the world. Creating compelling myths and legends involves understanding the three types of stories that form the foundation of any mythology. Now, we'll talk about the three types of myths and legends that your world will need, and I'll illustrate with some examples of my own. Type 1 is the creation and the primordial myths. Creation myths involve the origins of the world and the gods, the first beings. These stories will often involve climactic battles or divine interventions in the formation of the natural order. They provide a sense of awe and mystery, and they stage this world for your players to explore. Obviously, this is a huge task. Creating a full religious explanation for the world and everything in it is a daunting task, and is really only the beginning. In order to do it properly, it could be argued that you actually need several versions to explain it all, as different cultures come to different conclusions. In my case, I'll be working off the mythology of the giants to explain the creation of the giants. It may or may not be true. In their view of the universe, they claim that everything began with the void and the dreamer. The dreamer dreamed the first ones who created the world itself and all living things on it. There were 6 kinds of first one, and each was responsible for a different kind of living creature. But most important to this myth are the youngest of the first ones, the elder giants and the elder dragons. Each was titanic in size and power, and they were deathless. But they made children, and they hated each other, so they planned for a war and bred children to be soldiers. The type 2 myth is heroic, transformative, and transitionary myths. Heroic myths focus on the deeds of legendary figures who shaped the world through their actions. These stories often involve quests and battles and transformative journeys that bring about significant change. For instance, the elder giants eventually wasted away. Their bodies, miles long, decayed over time to create forests, teeming with their overflowing power, and they entrusted their mission, their history, and their magics to their mortal children. And they began to explore the world. The elder giants made the giants to embody the elemental runes that they had devised, and then they made their heirs, the Goliaths. They have a long history, isolated from the other mortal races, and a tradition of great deeds. But they forgot the purpose of the towers and the other artifacts of the elder giants because of their shorter lifespans.
Their isolation from the other races led to a dwindling, and they were driven into the mountains by the children of the elder dragons, the Yuan-Ti. Type 3 myths are prophetic and moral myths. Prophetic myths foretell future events or the destinies of individuals or nations. Moral myths teach lessons about right and wrong, and they often involve the gods' punishment or reward for human behavior. These are both either contemporary or future. In my world, the significant prophecy is the Scale Mount prophecy, which tells of a final confrontation between the elder giants and the elder dragons. Long ago, they realized what had happened. When they created the lesser races, they had given each child some small aspect of their power. And over time, as they multiplied, they took more and more. And so the first ones had dwindled, unable to truly die, but too weak to live. The elder giants and the elder dragons disagreed on the solution to this problem. The elder dragons wanted to wipe out the mortal races so they could be restored to their original power. The elder giants wanted to allow themselves to pass on peacefully, and according to the prophecy, they would choose champions amongst the mortals to decide in a fight to the death. So, now we have our mythology, and to be frank, I've summarized quite a bit for the purposes of this video. I'll be releasing more information in the accompanying Lore Archive series, as well as in the next episode when I discuss how I wrote the prophecy itself. But let's move on to how these myths impact the world around them so that you can explore them. Artifacts play a significant role in mythology. They often carry the weight of the ancient stories and the legendary powers. In our case, the artifacts that we're discussing are the Tor, the towers of the giants, and the Agdu, their elemental cities. They're rather larger than most artifacts, but that suits the giants themselves. Your artifacts can be much smaller, of course, but the principles are the same. Artifacts should have a clear purpose in the myths of old, which provide clues to their current use. These items may have been tools of the gods, symbols of power, or keys to ancient mysteries. These artifacts are the remnants of an ancient transportation method. The Tors are tall, tapered cylinders of carven stone. They're built around petrified tree trunks that hold bronze wedges called celestiviers, which are the source of the tower's powers. They use lightning travel to teleport instantaneously from one tower to another. Over time, the true nature and the purpose of artifacts can be forgotten, leading to misuse or misunderstanding. This adds a layer of mystery and danger to these items, as well as giving your players the opportunity to discover their use. This map could help the players to figure out what the towers do, for instance. In the modern day, no one truly remembers what the Tor can be used for. Their powers are still intact, but since the Goliaths were driven from the lowlands into the mountains, they were separated from their artifacts, and over time, how to use them was forgotten. Artifacts might be made from legendary materials that add to their mystique and their power. These substances can be rare, difficult to work with, or possess unique properties. The bronze of the Celestiviers comes from the bronze wood of the Lipta trees of Agduvar, the city of storms. It can only be refined in the forges of the fire giants. More importantly, though, the towers were not built for use in the past. They were built for use in the eventual future conflict between the agents of the Elder Giants and the Elder Dragons. The players finding out how to use them is foretold and will preface the events of the prophecy. By the way, if you think that this resource is coming in useful to you, check out our page in which we have dozens of other videos on more specific maps and charts. Additionally, you can become a member of the Red Quills on YouTube or Patreon for access to our Mapmaking Discord, exclusive Q&A sessions, topic boards, and high-quality copies of the maps that I make for these videos, as well as early access to our videos and behind the scenes. This video is part of a 6-part series in which we'll be exploring the basics of what you will need in order to create maps that you'll be proud of, and that you can use to the best effect in your own fantasy worlds, whether they're written, played, or told. And additionally, we'll be following along with the Lore Archive series, in which we'll be exploring some lore made specifically about these settings. We're delving deep into mythology now, and it's getting complex. But let's not forget the most important part of interacting with legends, the characters. Now that we've established the mythological foundation to the artifacts of the ancients, let's turn our attention to the characters that will bring the stories to life.
Legendary characters are the heart and soul of your mythology. Their deeds and their tales weave a rich tapestry of the world's history. The figures should be memorable. Their actions should be impactful and resonant with your players. Legendary characters are often defined by their great victories and their inevitable defeats. These moments of triumph and tragedy shape their legacy and influence the world around them. Consider the tale of Anapipalagra, the Goliath hero known for her many incredible achievements. She was a warrior, a mage, and a diplomat, and her deepest desire was to find some way to rejuvenate her dying mentor, the elder giant, Ithalena. But despite all her accomplishments and her power, she could not, and her very life contributed to the death of what she strove to protect. Long-standing grudges and feuds add depth to your characters and their motivations. These ancient animosities can drive the plot and create engaging conflicts for your players to navigate. In our world, the grudge between the Goliaths and the Yuan-Ti is a direct result of their shared history. The Elder Giants and the Elder Dragons' ancient war birthed this enmity, carried down through generations. The Yuan-Ti, children of the Elder Dragons, drove the Goliaths from their ancestral homes and created a lasting hatred. This grudge shapes the interactions between these races, it fuels tensions and provides rich story material. Legends often blur the line between truth and story. The passage of time and the retelling of tales can distort events and create a mythologized version of history. This ambiguity allows you to play with perceptions and expectations. It adds layers of intrigue to your campaign. Take, for instance, the story of the Storm Lord, Ul. According to legend, he was the first of the Storm Giants, the greatest of the greatest amongst the giants. Some say he was savior, protecting his people from the wrath of the dragons. Others claim that he was a tyrant, using his abilities to control and dominate. Eventually, he left to explore the world, or perhaps find new powers to bend to his will. It is said that he will return, but he must be long dead by now. When creating the characters that your players will hear about or even encounter, always consider the way that stories and history treats people. As we delve further into the mythological fabric of your world, we encounter the Dwindling People, those races whose isolation and sense of superiority have led to their cultural and demographic decline. These groups will add a layer of melancholy and complexity to your world. They embody themes of loss and memory and the inexorable passage of time. Isolationist races like the Goliaths and the Giants often cling to their glorious past while being forgotten by the future. Their reluctance to engage with the other races and adapt to changing times results in a slow degradation of their once great civilization. In the case of the Goliaths and the Giants, their self-imposed isolation and the belief in their own superiority have caused them to retreat from the world. They hold tightly to the remnants of their ancient culture, even as their numbers dwindle and their knowledge fades. The towering Tord and the elemental Agdu cities stand as silent witness to their former grandeur, now shrouded in myth and obscurity. The Goliaths and the Giants harbor a deep-seated resentment towards other races, born from a shared history and the ancient conflicts that have shaped their existence. This resentment permeates their culture and influences their interactions and their decisions. Their disdain for the Yuan-Ti, the children of the Elder Dragons, is a prime example. Driven from their ancestral homes by the Yuan-Ti, the Goliath's isolationist stance has only deepened their animosity. This cultural resentment not only isolates them further, but also fuels ongoing tensions and conflicts. But despite their decline, these dwindling peoples possess a unique power that stems from their isolation. Their seclusion has allowed them to preserve certain ancient secrets and magics unknown to the wider world. And this hidden knowledge can be a double-edged sword, both a source of strength and a reason for their continued isolation. In creating the mythology of your dwindling peoples, emphasize the themes of loss, memory, and isolation. Their stories are a poignant reminder of the inevitable passage of time and the consequences of a closed-off existence. As we draw this exploration of mythology to a close, remember that the myths and legends you create will add depth and richness to your world. They provide a backdrop for your campaign, They shape the cultures, conflicts, and adventures that your players will experience. By weaving together the threads of ancient artifacts, legendary characters, and dwindling people, you can create a vibrant tapestry that brings your D&D world to life, and then create maps specifically for them so that your players can uncover them piece by piece as they delve into the world and discover its secrets. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please give it a like and consider subscribing to our channel. By subscribing, you'll be notified whenever we release new content. Stay tuned for our next video where we'll look at creating some handouts and campaigns, looking at making notices, exploring the cultures and politics, creating characters within your maps and your worlds, looking at all of the various denotations of how to hook in your players into a quest, how to write the backstory for your world. Thank you for joining me, Ryan of the Red Quills, on this journey into the heart of myth and legend. Stay tuned for our next episode where we'll delve even deeper into the lore of the Kingdom of Endon and beyond. Until then, keep your quills sharp and your imagination sharper.